Hello again, 240. To conclude, do you believe in miracles from chapter 13? As you'll recall, on February 22nd, 1980, the nation received an unexpected morale boost because that evening they watched as a supposedly hopelessly outmanned collection of college hockey players pulled off one of the biggest upsets in American sports history, defeating a veteran Soviet Union team 4-3 in the Olympic Games. Even the American Broadcasting Company had no premonition that an American victory was in the offing, or it would have shown the game live rather than on a tape-delayed basis. The 1980 Winter Olympic Games were held in Lake Placid, New York, with the rivalries and tensions of the Cold War ever present. Journalists from both sides of the Iron Curtain kept medal counts and wrote of the games as an extension of Cold War power politics. The outcome of individual matches was viewed as an integral part of the ideological conflict between the forces of communism and democratic capitalism. Although the International Olympic Committee, the IOC, tried to extend the idea of amateurism, and this is from Omega, the official timekeeper of the Olympics. This is an iconic, great moments in time symbol of this Cold War rivalry from Portland Retro Blog. And they had tried to maintain this fiction of amateurism. That myth had long since been revealed as a sham. The Soviets were officially considered by the IOC to be state amateurs, a clever euphemism that accepted that they were members of the Soviet military and spent their time working at nothing other than their profession of hockey. And this is how the Soviet sports machine had been built. These people were all allegedly in the military, but what they were doing was training for their various competitions. And the Soviet national team that took to the ice at Lake Placid was widely recognized as one of the best teams in the world, amateur or professional. The previous year, the Soviets had handily defeated a National Hockey League All-Star aggregation by 6-0, and they'd been playing the NHL players since 1972. Almost that exact same team from those days was still playing in 1980. And also in 1979, they won the World Championship with an easy 5-2 victory over the Canadian national team. The American team was overmatched, but it nonetheless had plenty of young talent. And Coach Herb Brooks, and there's Coach Brooks. This is from the St. Louis Blues blog, the National Hockey League team, and this was from when Coach Brooks was tragically killed in a car accident. And this is from jcsgroup.truebluesolympichockeybrooks.hotmail. His University of Wisconsin teams had won 3 NCAA championships, and he spent nearly 18 months preparing his team. He put several hundred candidates through psychological tests and grueling workouts before culling them down to a team of 20. He then worked them unmercifully, recognizing that the only way they could compete with the world's best teams was through speed, endurance, conditioning, and disciplined play. His players nearly rebelled as he drove them to physical exhaustion and emotional distress. He messed with our minds at every opportunity, one player recalled, and team captain Mike Eruzione later commented, "If Herb came into my house today, it would still be uncomfortable." And as the Winter Olympics approached, the political fires were stoked when the Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan on Christmas Day, 1979. World tensions mounted, and speculation about an American boycott of the Olympics in protest at the invasion began to circulate. Just 1 week before the Games opened, in the last pre-Olympic exhibition game, the Soviet team destroyed the United States team at Madison Square Garden in New York by an embarrassing 10-3 score. Things did not look good for the Americans. In the preliminary round, the Americans had come from behind to tie Sweden, but surprised a strong Czechoslovakia team 7-3 and defeated Norway, Romania, and who they were really concerned about before the Games, Germany. Entering the 4-team medal round, the Americans were considered no match for the powerful Soviets. Among other things, they had to find a way to get the puck past goalie Vladislav Tretiak, arguably the world's best netman. Late in the first period, the score stood 2-1 in favor of the Soviets, but there were signs that this was the Americans' day. American goalie Jim Craig managed to stop a barrage of shots on goal. He faced 18 in the first period alone, and actually he turned away for the game 36, not 39. 39 was the total shots on goal by the Soviets. And then, with only seconds remaining in the first period, American forward Dave Christian fired a 25-foot shot that Tretiak easily turned away. However, the Soviet defenders, thinking the period had ended, did not catch the rebound, and Mark Johnson slapped the puck past a surprised Tretiak. A replay indicated that Johnson had scored with 1 second remaining. And there's Johnson bearing down on Tretiak. And as the second period began, angry Soviet coach Viktor Tikhonov inexplicably benched Tretiak. A horrendous strategic mistake. He was the best goalie in the world by most people's estimation. But the Soviets continued to dominate play in the second period. The Americans only managed 2 shots on goal, and were happy that the period ended with them trailing 3-2. In the final period, Brooks' emphasis on speed, and this is a picture of Tretiak from Champion@Olympic Winter article. This is from when the Winter Olympics were in Sochi in Russia in 2014. The Olympic Games took place, And his emphasis on speed and conditioning, Coach Brooks, began to pay off. And while Tikhonov kept his veteran players on the ice, Brooks substituted frequently. Johnson tied the score off a fumbled puck, and with 10 minutes remaining in the game, Captain Mike Eruzione stole a pass, outskated the defenders, and flipped a shot past the reserve Soviet goaltender, who is Vladimir Mishkin, a shot that Tretiak could have stopped in his sleep. The Soviets launched a frantic attack, but Craig made several stops. And there's a picture of Eruzione, the captain, after he scored the winner, as it turned out. And as the last seconds counted down, excited ABC announcer Al Michaels screamed into the microphone, "You got 10, 9, 8, 5 seconds left. Do you believe in miracles?" Yes! And as the American team celebrated, their ecstatic fans waved American flags and chanted, "USA, USA." And Jim Craig was huge against the Soviets and in the gold medal game against Finland. And there's another picture of the team celebrating. And all of these color pictures come from SI.com from a February 22nd, 2012 article in the magazine. And all of these pictures were taken by photographer Heinz Klutmeyer for Sports Illustrated. And the next day, newspapers across the United States blared the good news in large headlines, and television news programs led with the story. All across the country, flags flew in front of homes and from the aerials of automobiles. An upsurge in nationalistic sentiment swept the nation. The team's victory was right out of American mythology. The overmatched underdog persevering against all odds to pull off an improbable triumph. The gold medal game against Finland seemed anticlimactic. Once again, the Americans came from behind to win 4-2, and pictures of goalie Jim Craig skating exuberantly around the rink, draped in an American flag, appeared on front pages of the newspapers all across America. The new decade seemed to bring renewed optimism. As President Reagan took office on January 20th, 1981, the hostages were released in Iran, and in the months that followed, the economy began to grow. And as Reagan's second term wound down, a tenuous détente or a thaw in the Cold War with the Soviets took hold, leading to a significant reduction in nuclear arms in 1987. The intermediate range nuclear weapons, missiles, the mobile nukes that were all over Europe at the time were removed. That was a real de-escalation of tensions. And although it is a stretch to credit any of these events to a single hockey game, nonetheless, the miracle of Lake Placid came to be viewed as the time when the long national ordeal had finally bottomed out. And if nothing else, the hockey triumph proved to be a classic example of how politics and sports had become intricately intertwined.